Hey YouTube, Alex here. So if you can't tell by the title, today's video I'm going to be covering light cycles or just simply daylight cycles for Chinese water dragons. These animals have spent millions of years living in the wild where they are quite used to the sun coming up and rising and then setting, and in captivity it is sort of important that we try and mimic that to the best of our ability. You too can improve on your daylight cycles for your water dragons versus simply turning all your lights on and turning all of them off. So I'm going to quickly get them off this branch because I'm going to be turning lights on and off and I don't want to stress them, but I figured to start this video you should see the male and female right here. They're doing really well, and let's get on to this video. Alrighty guys, so through the magic of video editing, Ozzy and Harriet are now off their perch. So all of the lighting you see here becomes possible through the use of smart outlets like this little thing here. These are really cool because you can buy these online or at your local hardware store, and what this does is it allows you to control all of your lights from a device of your choice. So in my case, I've got an iPad, and through that I am able to open up my Go Sound application. I have an entire segment dedicated to the reptile room, so if I want to turn off Harriet's right halogen bulb, done. And I can even access it to where I can set the schedule of when I want it on and when I want it off. When we're trying to mimic a sunrise, sunset, we have to turn our lights on in a particular order and we turn them off in a particular order, and this lets our lizards know when the day is starting and when the day is ending. I am going to turn all of these lights off and we are just going to walk through my light cycle, and I hope this will be able to help guide some of you into creating a little bit more of a natural light regime for your water dragons. I have all these lights off now. The first thing we're going to mimic is what happens at 7 in the morning. My rightmost halogen turns on, and as you can see, just like how the sun would rise in the wild, we get that nice orange glow of the halogen bulb to mimic the first rays of sunshine that peek over the horizon. Fun fact, the reason why sunrise and sunset looks orangish yellow is because the longest wavelengths of visible light on the color spectrum are your reds, oranges, and yellows. That's why we see these first and last. By 7:15, my left halogen bulb turns on. So now there's a little bit more visible light. You can see though there's a lot of shaded areas. Whenever Ozzy and Harriet are paired, what I typically find is they seek out some of these various areas just starting to heat up, and that way they will align themselves with the UVB light once that turns on. A full half hour later, my UVB light does turn on. And so you can see now it's a little bit brighter, but I've still got a lot of shaded areas. This is mimicking now the sun having risen above the horizon. So now there's going to be some UVB exposure. Arguably, UVB is the last wavelength to enter the scene, since it is the shortest wavelength by nanometers compared to visible light. However, given that artificial UVB is nothing like natural sunlight, I like to play it safe and just ensure that the lizards have at least 10 to 12 hours, depending on the time of year, because I do shorten my light cycle in the winter for the water dragons when they go through a pseudo-hibernative state. Nonetheless, this just ensures that it's now 8 o'clock in the morning, and now the UVB is on. 12-hour window in the summer, a 10-hour window in the fall and winter to get access to that ultraviolet B radiation. Lastly, my final light source to kick on, that would be my overall visible light LEDs. So right now we have mimicked the sun having risen up, all of our heat energy started, followed by our UVB. Now we've got full visible light. These lizards know that it is the peak of the day and it's gonna stay like this for a while, all the way until 5:30 in the afternoon. It's not dusk, but you can definitely tell it's getting later in the day. And just as these LEDs turned on last, they are also the first to turn off. So there we have it. Now we're going into that dusk setting. So there's still a little bit of UV showing. By 7 o'clock, the UVB light turns off. I am filming this video in the summer months. As you can imagine, in the winter months, the UVB light might be off by 5 o'clock instead of 7 because I only have an 11-hour daylight period versus 13 in the summer. So you might have to adjust it depending on your species, or even again, if you're like me, where you're light cycling your animals year round. In summary, your lizards are now seeing that it is dusk. As you can imagine, 7:30, my left halogen turns off. This is the only visible light source available. I rarely see them basking at this hour because it's the evening. They usually only bask in the mornings, then they run around, they breed, they eat, they hunt food throughout the day. This is pretty much letting them know, like, okay guys, it's time to go to bed. And lastly, bam, they go into their night cycle. Alrighty guys, magic of camera editing. I really hope you found this video helpful. Arguably, I believe that this method of light cycling is a little bit more natural for your water dragons as opposed to turning everything on and turning everything off. You're, in a sense, mimicking a sunrise sunset. If I really wanted to go in depth, I could buy a Herpstat 6 unit, which can actually dim the halogens and ramp them up, so that could really mimic sunrise sunset. I won't lie, I don't have $400 to spend on a thermostat that does that. Maybe in the future when I'm making a little bit more money, a Herpstat unit for dimming the halogen bulbs is not out of the question. Make sure if you want to try and do a dimming feature, you check that your LEDs are dimmable. And then the UVB bulbs, again, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but I'm running a 6% T5 high output Arcadia Forest UVB bulb. You cannot dim those quartz glass bulbs. Those have to be used in conjunction with an on and off switch. All the stuff in this video is possible by using a smart outlet. I am not sponsored by Ghost Sound by any means. This is just the brand that I'm using. I've had great success with it, and I am running these little smart plugs on all my snake cages, on my brother's bearded dragon, Rocky. If you guys have been longtime followers of the channel, we still have him. He's doing good at almost 9 years old. And of course, Ozzy and Harriet, my breeding pair of Chinese water dragons. So without further ado, I'm Alex. If you have any questions about this video, you can always shoot me an email that's listed in the description, snakedude1814@gmail.com. And until then, I'll see you in the next one. Adios.